The Jewish high holidays are here, but what exactly is Yom Kippur? Well, here's Yom Kippur 101, everything you need to know about this holiday in about 90 seconds. So first of all, when is it? It's always 10 days after Rosh Hashanah, depending on the calendar. In one year, it could be as early as September 14th, like this year it's very early, or as late as October 14th. It is the holiest day of the year for Jews, so you'll often get the biggest turnout at synagogues or in Jerusalem, this famous shot of the Western Wall every year. Not perhaps in a pandemic, it might look more like this, maybe praying in a parking lot with a mask on and your social distance from everybody else. But it is hours and hours of prayer. What are Jews praying about or for? Well, it's really a day of atonement. That's what the holiday means. Yom is day in Hebrew, and Kippur, day of atonement. You want to think about all the things you might have done wrong. I always say it's like confession, but save it up for a whole year. So think about that. One whole year, think about all the things you could have done better, a real time of introspection. You can't do all that if you're working, so most Jews don't work on Yom Kippur. Most famously, Sandy Koufax didn't pitch in a game of the World Series that fell on Yom Kippur, 1965. Fun fact, he threw 2 more shutouts in that series and was named that World Series MVP. Also, you're not working. You're usually not eating, not food, not water for 25 hours. There are exceptions. Children 12 and under cannot fast, and anyone with any kind of medical condition is not allowed to fast either. But if you can and you're able, you do that. I think it's a great opportunity for humility on just one day. So many people struggle with food every day. Some traditions, you're supposed to give charity the week of Yom Kippur. You're supposed to ideally wear white at the services at your synagogue, symbolizing purity. Some Jews don't wear leather, don't want any connection to an animal, so they'll have canvas or shoes. No marital relations, not on a day like today for Jews, certainly. And then the shofar is blown more often on Rosh Hashanah, but it is blown at the end of the Yom Kippur services to celebrate the end of the Day of Atonement, and then you break the fast with a big meal with your friends or family. That's pretty much it. Those are the basics. We call it Yom Kippur 101. Well, we profile 3 local newspapers every day, and I got to tell you, this is the headline of the year from the Spokane Daily Chronicle. Maybe it's just because I'm an 80s music fan. Little red Corvette hit by a car going much too fast. Isn't that hysterical? This was found, by the way, by our sports producer, Tony White. He said, Steve, you got to see this, and it's true. Great story. This SUV was speeding through an intersection, got T-boned by a pickup, ended up on its side, and then skidded into this $100,000 Corvette, whose owner had spent 4 years refurbishing it and was only taking it out for one little errand before he was heading to a car show in Oregon this week. Ouch. In the Mukilteo Beacon, we're checking back in with Devin Boyce. This is the local teenager bicycling across the country to benefit local victims of childhood trauma like himself. And he's about halfway there to New York. He's in front of the Abraham Lincoln House in Springfield, Illinois. And then finally in the North Kitsap Herald, another great story about Andrew Hughes. Now, he's from Paulsbo, and he summited Mount Everest in May. Not only that, then he drops to his knee and rips out this orange sign, and it says, "Will you marry me?" By the way, sets a world record for highest known proposal by an American. That's true. But he wanted to find out in person, so he waited to tell Lauren, his girlfriend, until just a couple of weeks ago. Then they're boating across Lake Washington. He gives her a box. She opens it up. It's got the flag inside. It says, "Will you marry me?" She says yes. How great of a connection is that? These are the great stories you sometimes only find in your local newspaper. The battle over President Biden's $3.5 trillion spending plan has thrust Washington Representative Pramila Jayapal into the national spotlight as the chair of the Progressive Caucus. And Representative Jayapal joining us now live on King 5 News at noon. Good afternoon. We're glad to have you here. You have said, Representative, that you are willing to negotiate off this $3.5 trillion price tag as long as you get your priorities in. What are your priorities?
Well, Steve, thank you so much for having me on. And that's exactly right. And leave nobody behind.
But if right-leaning Democrats aren't on board with spending that much money for all those programs, where are you willing to budge?
Well, we don't believe that we need to negotiate against ourselves. Our priority as a caucus is to keep as many of these things in there, Steve, but do it perhaps some of them for shorter time periods of funding so that people can see the immediate benefit and understand that government's got their backs. What
are the political ramifications for the Democrats, for the president, if you cannot find that consensus and get that 4% with you?
We will. I am completely confident that government's got your back.
Well, the bill was supposed to pass by September 27th. That was the congressional Democrats who set that date. That obviously has come and gone. What is the timeline to get this done?
Well, that was an arbitrary deadline that was set by the 4% for just the infrastructure bill. And had we passed that, Steve, had the Congressional Progressive Caucus not stood, what has allowed us to continue to make sure we deliver on the entirety of the agenda.
And when do you expect that to happen?
Well, let's hope it happens soon. I'm still here in Washington. Paid leave because we're taking on climate change and leaving a planet for their kids and grandkids.
Representative Pramila Jayapal, thank you so much for joining us live here on King 5 News at noon.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve Bunin live at Gasworks Park where thousands of fans will await the announcement tonight. Steve, what's happening there at the park today?
Yeah, they're going to release the Kraken. They're going to finally release the roster. We've been waiting, like you said, so long to find out which one player they'll take from every other team. This is the expansion draft. Everybody protects about 10 of their own players. Everyone else is up for grabs, and Seattle can get one from each team, right? One from New York, one from Detroit, one from Carolina. And then this is the stage where they'll announce it. The general manager, Ron Francis, he'll have some help as well. Some big-time Seattle celebrities. Got to have Macklemore at a thing like this. He'll be here. Bobby Wagner of the Seattle Seahawks. Marshawn Lynch. He'll maybe be throwing some Skittles around. Some of the all-time Sonics. Lenny Wilkins, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp. We know Kyle Lewis of the Seattle Mariners is going to be here. We know Sue Bird is going to appear via satellite or via Zoom or on tape from Japan, where we just learned today she's going to be one of the flag bearers for Team USA. So there's going to be a lot of excitement here. You mentioned the fans. About 4,000 are going to be allowed here. Now, by the way, you can't come to the park today. You're not allowed in without one of those tickets. They were free, but the team gave them away already, so you can't get one. You're going to have to watch it on TV like the rest of us, and we'll certainly be covering it throughout the day on the noon show, live on King 5 News this evening and on king5.com as well. We're going to get the 30 guys that they're going to be on the team. We're going to have the celebrities here, a lot of fans. We hope the weather holds. It's going to be a lot of fun this afternoon. It's been a long wait to finally find out who's going to be on this roster.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn some of these names. The big new star could be coming to Seattle. Who knows?
I'm excited. I know there's people are trying to speculate. I know Chris Daniels was tweeting something about, a player up in Kelowna, trying to read between the lines of what's happening there. So
Steve, what do you think? I mean,
and Carey,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Carey Price is the big name that a lot of people have their eye on. So number one, he's a goalie. You need to have a great goalie, especially for a new team, because maybe not everyone else is quite as good as the rest of the competition. If you can't get a shot past me and I'm the goalie, that's great. So Carey Price is a great goalie. He's one of the best in the National Hockey League. He just took Montreal to the Stanley Cup Finals. The only catch is, and he's from Vancouver. His wife is from Kennewick. He played junior hockey in Tri-Cities. So a lot of stars are aligning, but he makes $10.5 million. And the team can only spend $80 million on the entire roster. So that's 13% of the whole cap will be tied up on one player. So that's the only hitch. Still, a lot of analysts in the sport do think that they're going to draft Carey Price, but that's the big name, the number one name you're hoping for if you're a Kraken fan. You want that guy between the pipes when the season starts in October.
Carey Price. All right, well noted.
Carey Price. Good get. All right, Steve, thank you very much.
And then Whatcom County is under a flood emergency with parts of Bellingham. Look at this overnight. Totally underwater. You got a truck driving through. That's not necessarily the safest thing, especially if you've never driven through a flood before. All the schools in Bellingham are closed today. And our Angelique Hockaday has been reporting since the early morning. And now we can see the water rushing right behind you, Angelique.
Yeah, Steve, the rain here has not let up, they said. For now, reporting live in Bellingham, Angelique Hockaday, King 5 News.
All right, thank you, Angelique. Stay safe up there. Also in Bellingham, a tree falling onto northbound I-5 overnight. A crew's working through the morning hours. They've got I-5 back open, but it's a good reminder, stay slow, be aware of what's going on around you. And if you see a tree that's down, avoid driving near it. Make sure to call police. The Skagit River is expecting to see record-breaking flood levels cresting at, wait for it, 39 feet. An evacuation advisory is already in effect for people in the small Skagit town called Hamilton. It's east of Mount Vernon along Highway 20. Like Angelique, Kira Alfalin, been working since way before sunrise for the morning team, hanging around here on the noon show. And Kira, I know only about 300 people live there, but how bad is it right now? You're ankle deep.
Yeah, Steve, good morning. Back to you.
Yeah, if they move it again, you can see those businesses there that would be affected. Kira Alfalin reporting all morning long right into the noon hour here on King 5. Thank you. And then in East King County, the Snoqualmie River, we're always watching that when there are flood events. It's covering West Snoqualmie Valley Road Northeast. This is near Duval. There are more than a dozen roads closed in and around Duval, Falls City, Carnation, Woodinville, that whole area. According to Puget Sound Energy, at about 9 a.m., there were about 30,000 people without power. That was up to 58,000 an hour ago. Right now, about 53,000 people have no electricity, and that's really customers, so it's really more than that, but that's 53,000 customers. In Snohomish County, just a few hundred people without power. Seattle City Light says they have about 8,000 power outages. It's another reminder to charge your cell phone if you have power now. You never know if and when the power is going to go out, better to have your cell phone charged so you can get in contact with the help if you need it, family and friends, just to let them know you're okay. Let's give you a live look right now outside what you can see from the camera with the Seattle waterfront. We are getting a record amount of rain for November, and we're already, of course, only, halfway through the month. As of midnight last night, Seattle had 6.89 inches of rain. That's 3 times normal, which is a little more than 2.5 inches, and it's about a half an inch more than the usual rainfall for the entire month. And of course, that was as of midnight, and it's still coming down, certainly at SeaTac Airport, where we get those measurements, Stephen, and all around Western Washington.
Yeah, I mean, more so in the north. That's out later on tonight, of course, then begins all the cleanup and all that.
Yeah, well, at least a little relief. All right, the full forecast coming up. Thank you, Stephen. So Bellingham schools all closed today. So are all the schools in Ferndale because of the flooded roads, just not safe for students, teachers, staff. And the same situation for the other schools on this list, including the entire Mount Baker district, as well as all the schools on Orcas Island. The North Line Sounder service is canceled today between Everett and Seattle. Sound Transit calls this a precaution because of the potential for landslides. So if you generally use that to get to work or wherever, they're encouraging you to take the buses instead. Right now, the search is on for an inmate missing from the Cedar Creek Corrections Center near Rochester. Garrett Stephen is his name. He's 32. He was reported missing during Saturday's routine checks. The Department of Corrections thinks he dug under a fence at a gym where he was temporarily housed as part of the ongoing COVID safety precautions. So several law enforcement agencies are looking for him. He was serving time for theft and burglary. So if you see him, do not approach him. Call 911. The Kittitas County Sheriff's Office says they have found the body of Seattle Deputy Fire Chief Jay Schreckengost. He had been missing in the mountains near Cliffdale since November 2nd. His body was found a half mile from where he parked his truck to scout for elk. More than 60 agencies were looking for him over the last week and a half or so. We don't know yet how he died, but authorities say the preliminary evidence shows no signs of foul play or suspicious activity. 12/11, starting today, everyone 12 and older has to show proof that they're vaccinated or a negative COVID test within the last 3 days to attend any large event anywhere in Washington state. This is outdoor events with 10,000 people or more, or anything indoors with 1,000 people or more. Religious services and school events are exempt. Governor Inslee did announce this mandate last month because hospitals are still overwhelmed with unvaccinated people. It's been 2 weeks since the FDA authorized the COVID vaccine for children 5 to 11, and a little over a week since they've been really readily available. And the CDC says in that time, more than 1 million kids under 12 have already gotten their first dose. Now, overall, as a country, 195 million Americans are fully vaccinated against COVID. That's about 59% of our population, which only ranks 55th in the world, according to Johns Hopkins University. Coming up, yes, about 1 million kids have gotten their first COVID shot, but are schools making a mistake if they now start easing up on mask mandates? And the search is on for Jimmy Lake's permanent replacement at UW. Why this search will be a lot different from the last one.